happening, guys? Welcome to my Summerslam and Monday Night Raw reviews. I decided to do both in one single episode. I got the chance to do rather than split them into two episodes because I figured let me just cover both SummerSlam and Raw in the same episode, and then at least the next episode after this will be Universe Mode. So, what a weekend we had! NXT, I would say, hands down, owned the weekend. Had some great matches from start to finish. The crowd was behind them. They set the pace. They set the atmosphere and the mood for the entire event, and it was positive, I'd say. SummerSlam, on the other hand, the crowd was there for some matches, and then in other matches, they clearly were not too pleased, especially during the Roman Reigns and Dean Ambrose versus the Wyatt family match, during that 9-women tag elimination match featuring those three Divas teams, during the during the Seth Rollins and John Cena match, during the main event, and during Sheamus versus Randy Orton. Goes back to what I was saying, that there was high hope for the NXT event because you're guaranteed they will put on a show. They'll go all out to give you some pure and entertaining wrestling matches. But with SummerSlam, you might be disappointed, and based on how the main event went down, I'm sure a lot of people were disappointed about that because you had that event hyped for weeks. And of course, you had people being skeptical, being worried that, it might be a repeat of what went down when Taker and Brock Lesnar faced each other at WrestleMania. But this match, the match itself, was great. It delivered. It probably exceeded a lot of expectations, but the finish. Now, I'm always touchy about finishes, especially on the main roster, because it just seems like it's a trend now. They can hype a match, hype a pay-per-view, they give you a great match, but the finish is always where they screw up, where they screw fans. And sure, it's because they want people to tune in the next day, but I think looking at NXT, you can have a clean finish and still have people interested enough to tune in to the weekly show. That's what I think. You don't need to have a screwy finish every time, because if it's like that, on pay-per-views, every time you have a big match coming up and then you don't have a clean finish, people are going to get frustrated. And I think at this point, fans have just gotten used to WWE pulling off screwy finishes on the main roster. With NXT, I think with so many clean finishes happening, I think a screwy finish can happen here and there, but it's not like the common thing or expected event, unlike the main roster. So that I would say SummerSlam was the night of some great matches, for most of them, but a night of screwy finishes, I would say, for the two big matches that were hyped. Talking about the title match between Seth Rollins and John Cena, and the main event, Taker versus Brock Lesnar. Screwy finishes. But Monday Night Raw now, I think, although they didn't really follow up from events that happened on SummerSlam, because I think, for example, the Taker versus Lesnar situation, what did we have on Monday Night Raw? Paul Heyman and the Beast Brock Lesnar, they were out. They were looking for a fight because they felt robbed, they felt cheated, and Lesnar got Lesnar is the one who got the victory. That's what they believe, because Taker tapped out, and of course the ref did not see it, leading to the timekeeper ringing the bell because he saw the tap out, but the ref didn't, and the ref was pretty mad about it, believing that the timekeeper was now acting independently now instead of letting the ref do his job. So now on Raw, we had Paul Heyman and Lesnar coming out. They wanted a match against the Taker, another match against Undertaker. They wanted him to come out, but of course Taker did not come out. Who did we get instead? Bo Dallas. And I think a lot of people must have been thoroughly disappointed. That must have been an anticlimax right there. Because sure, Bo Dallas, for comedy acts, sometimes, Bo Dallas, when it comes to comedy and stuff, he can be the guy. He can come in and make you laugh. But this time, people wanted Taker and Lesnar to continue. But wrong place, wrong time. Bo Dallas is sent out, and just to please the crowd, they did get their suplexes. They got the F5, but really, at what cost? People still wanted Taker, and I think it was confirmed. I heard on the Wednesday episode of the PW Torch that the Madison Square Garden event for Brock Lesnar, his opponent is going to be Bo Dallas again. I mean, come on. When are we going to see Lesnar in action rather than feeding Bo Dallas to him? Gonna be like Japan all over again, I had an idea. I was speaking to Murph's YT13. You can find his channel on YouTube. It's under Murph's YT13. That's MURFSYT13. I'll put his Twitter handle in the description below. I was talking to him about Brock Lesnar. Like, who is next? He had asked the question, who could Brock Lesnar's next opponent be? I suggested that maybe Kane can come back, because I think all of us expect Taker to come back around WrestleMania season. I don't think Taker will make an appearance anytime soon, but there is talk that maybe, because Survivor Series will mark his 25th anniversary being in the business, maybe he'll pop up for Survivor Series and they'll have their match there. And because not a lot of people there's the expectance that maybe they'll have their final match in Texas, WrestleMania 32, Taker possibly retiring there because it's in his home state, and maybe that'll be the final match. But who will win that one? That's the question. Because really, would you want Taker retiring with a loss at WrestleMania, or would you want Brock Lesnar taking another loss to Taker, and what happens from there? So I think that's another option, that maybe Taker will return for Survivor Series and they have their match there, because although there is that assumption that maybe they'll have their final match at WrestleMania, most people, I think, are hoping that Taker will have a new opponent for WrestleMania. Lesnar will have a new opponent for WrestleMania. And as far as Taker is concerned, most people want Taker versus Sting. Now, for those people, I ask you, why do you want that match now, all of a sudden? Sure, they've wanted this match for years, and I think it should have happened much earlier, while the streak was still there, because at least you have something to build upon. The possibility of Sting maybe defeating Taker and ending the streak, or Taker defeating Sting in his very first WrestleMania match. Something you can build upon. But now the streak is gone. Sting competed at WrestleMania against Triple H. He was defeated. So now, if you have these two guys competing at WrestleMania, who needs that win the most? If I'm not mistaken, Sting is from Texas. Night of Champions, is that not his, where Night of Champions is happening, is that not his hometown? And WrestleMania is in Texas. Both of these guys, they're from there. Sure, the crowd will be cheering for both, but of course one section of the crowd will be disappointed to have their guy lose that big match, especially if it's a capacity crowd, 100,000 people there. I mean, come on. So I would have been in favor of Taker versus Sting if it had happened before Sting versus Triple H, before Taker versus Brock Lesnar for the streak. Because now I ask, who should win that match? Should Sting win and Taker retires, or should Taker win and then Sting takes another loss in his second WrestleMania appearance? You know, I think it would hurt both guys if they lose. So that's why I'm not in favor of Sting versus Taker. I think at this point people should just let it go. Really, it's not really something we can have. Although you never know, WWE, they might work out something and make it work. But I'm just thinking of the fans, seeing both of these guys competing, and then one of them has to take the loss, obviously. So what happens there? Will they fight to a draw? I mean, I think maybe they can accept a draw, like what happened between Jay Lethal and Roderick Strong for the world title. They fought to a draw because time ran out. So could that happen for Taker versus Sting? They fight to a draw. Will fans accept it more than if one of them has a clean win? I'm just thinking, but I really don't think Taker versus Sting could work right now. That's what I'm saying. And speaking of Sting, he was one of the highlights for Raw, popping up at the end where Seth Rollins, who defeated John Cena at SummerSlam thanks to Jon Stewart becoming United States Champion and World Heavyweight Champion. I wonder how the Ring of Honor guys must have felt about that. Though Sam Roberts didn't really touch on it except for this interview they had with Seth Rollins about unifying titles and everything. I thought they were going to detail about the situation where now Seth Rollins is a double champion, like what's happening on Ring of Honor. And think about it, Seth Rollins is a former Ring of Honor wrestler. He's a former Ring of Honor world champion. How do the Ring of Honor guys feel that WWE has a former employee of theirs, a former superstar from them? He's the WWE champion and he's a double champion. Really, I think they must have been a little upset about that. But now that Sting is in the picture, perhaps they are going to move away from the double champion route and then back to, someone being WWE champion, someone else being United States champion. And again, while I was talking to Murph's YT13, he brought up a scenario of Sting going on to Night of Champions, defeating Seth Rollins, becoming WWE champion, building up to Sting versus John Cena at WrestleMania next year. Then I asked him that, what happens to John Cena versus Seth Rollins? How will that be concluded? There's still John Cena versus Jon Stewart. I think that's still a story that's continuing. That has to be resolved completely. What does Jon Stewart have to say? He was AA'd on Raw. Maybe he'll follow up from there. And another thing is, if Daniel Bryan is healthy come maybe Royal Rumble. Yeah, I'd asked also, does this mean Cena will have to win next year's Royal Rumble so that he can main event against Sting at WrestleMania? And that's when I brought up the idea of, okay, Daniel Bryan, what if he's healthy enough by the time the Royal Rumble comes back? You would be, uh, you would have to think that by then the crowd is only, and he declares that he'll be in the Royal Rumble. You have to think that by then the crowd are only thinking of Daniel Bryan winning the Royal Rumble. Anyone else they will reject if Daniel Bryan is in that Rumble and he's eliminated in that Rumble, like what happened this year and what happened last year. You know, at this point, I really think the fans they just want Daniel Bryan to win the Rumble, and WWE would have to let Daniel Bryan win that Rumble because honestly, the crowd will turn against whoever wins that Rumble. I really think so. So, and you can't really screw these Daniel Bryan fans for the third year in a row. Come on, have him win this Rumble. So then, as far as Murph's YT13's question goes, I answered that okay, Sting versus Cena can happen, but let it be at the Royal Rumble instead of WrestleMania. Because if Daniel Bryan's healthy, he has to win the Rumble. So you have heel Cena. At this point, I'd say Cena has to go full on heel. I really do. I mean, you see the expression John Cena had when he showed up on Raw to confront Jon Stewart. He looked like a different guy. He really did. Not as positive as usually is. I mean, he looked like, man, a part of him was lost when he was defeated at SummerSlam. So I'd say, yeah, heel Cena versus Sting, World Championship on the line at the Royal Rumble. That's where you can have John Cena defeat Sting. But you end the night with Daniel Bryan winning the Royal Rumble, right? And then picture a scenario where Daniel Bryan, he's just won the Royal Rumble, he's celebrating with the crowd, he's pointing at the WrestleMania sign. Then comes the new champion, John Cena, right? A stare down between the Royal Rumble winner, Daniel Bryan, new champion, John Cena. That final look at the end of the Royal Rumble, people would want to tune into the following Raw. They definitely will. And then you can have John Cena versus Sting, the rematch at whichever pay-per-view will follow the Royal Rumble. Will it be the Elimination Chamber or this Fastlane pay-per-view, whichever? They have their rematch there. Cena defeats him. Daniel Bryan moves on to main event WrestleMania, taking on John Cena. And capacity crowd. I think that's another way they could guarantee that the crowd will be there at WrestleMania for that main event. Daniel Bryan versus John Cena. Again, you remember we had Daniel Bryan versus John Cena at SummerSlam. Daniel Bryan defeated John Cena clean. And if you have Daniel Bryan defeat heel Cena clean at WrestleMania, just after winning the Royal Rumble, and he gets his WrestleMania moment once again. Imagine 100,000 people chanting yes, celebrating with Bryan having defeated John Cena, and he gets back into the world title picture. I mean, yeah, I think that's a great match right there. And of course, with Sting defeating Seth Rollins for the world title, we at least have the guy who can continue being United States champion after John Cena's run, because after the Kevin Owens feud ended, who was going to step up, be credible enough to continue the United States Championship reign after John Cena's run? And we have Seth Rollins now, so we can have Seth Rollins continue being United States champion. don't know how long that can go for until the next credible guy. Because at this point now, with John Cena's run, the United States Championship has to be in the hands of credible superstars. Now, WWE cannot afford to ill book that championship title. They have to give it to superstars that the crowd are behind. Superstars that can elevate the championship title, like John Cena and hopefully Seth Rollins. I think he can be a great United States champion. So I'm looking forward to the feuds he's going to have, and who is the guy who will defeat him. Will it be Cesaro? Someone from NXT perhaps, someone upcoming in the mid card. So it's interesting. Looking forward to seeing how that one will go. Also, Sting becoming world champion. We at least eliminate the briefcase situation. Sheamus. We can have Sheamus cash in on Sting. Sting defeats Sheamus, and at least fans won't have to worry about Sheamus cashing in at some point and becoming world champion. But at least with Sting being world champion, you have babyface champion defeating heel Sheamus. Maybe rather than Sheamus cashing in on Rollins, who's a heel, and maybe it'll lead to Rollins turning into a babyface. I don't know, but that's another positive about Sting becoming world champion. It eliminates briefcase, Mr. Money in the Bank Sheamus. I think he can take the loss, and then at least he can go back and refresh, maybe reboot, start building himself again. Because, well, I feel sorry for Sheamus because he's really committed to his character, his gimmick, but, well, the only connection he has with the crowd is the "you look stupid" chant, and it's unfortunate because a lot of people wanted Sheamus to turn heel for a while, and WWE delayed on doing that. He got injured, then he came back. He's a heel now, but not really connecting with the crowd. So perhaps after losing the briefcase, maybe he can reboot from there. That's what I think. His match against Randy Orton at SummerSlam, I think the crowd were behind it a little bit, but they lost the crowd somewhere during the match. I mean, there was now the Olay chant. I think there was the "How You Doing" chant. So I think they'd had enough of seeing them fight once again with nothing on the line. They should have had the briefcase on the line at least, because Sheamus won that match. So it would have made sense that, okay, they're fighting for the briefcase. Sheamus defeats Randy Orton. Are they going to have a final showdown after this? I don't know. Maybe at a Night of Champions, because here's an idea. Night of Champions, all the titles are on the line. Sheamus versus Randy Orton for the briefcase. Yeah, it could be a ladder match. Briefcase is up there. They're fighting for the briefcase. Sheamus defeats Randy Orton, keeps the briefcase. Later on in the night, Sting versus Seth Rollins. Sting becomes the new champion. Sheamus comes in to cash in. Sting defeats Sheamus. End of story. That's another idea for Night of Champions. So, yeah, that's what I think. Sting becoming champion. What happens as far as Sting becoming champion is concerned? Then there was the Intercontinental Championship triple threat match, shorter than I thought it would go, and there really wasn't much to this match because as far as I could see, it was just a scramble for getting the pinfall. Really, I think that's how quick that match was, where Miz was switching between pinning Ryback and pinning the Big Show. Yeah, that was cool. The crowd was behind that. It was a short match and I expected more out of it. But I guess because they didn't have enough time, they just had to make it a quick match. So Ryback retained. Then we had the Fatal 4-Way for the tag team titles. The New Day, primetime players, the champions versus Los Matadores versus the Lucha Dragons. This was one of the better matches of the evening. This one again must have exceeded some expectations because of based on how things went down in the tag team elimination chamber. I think fans must have been a little worried about this four-way, but it was awesome. The crowd were behind the New Day when they came in and they sang their own version of New York State of Mind. Yeah, that was cool. The crowd was behind them, and they won back the tag team titles. Although the crowd are now behind the New Day, they now like the New Day, I think hold off turning them full-on baby faces. Yeah, I think just let them continue to be heels. Build up the crowd connection. Build it up, and then you can turn them babyface when the crowd really is behind the New Day. That's what I think. So you can still have them tease being baby faces, but you continue to have them, making fun of the crowd, making fun of the city they're in and so forth, just to remind the crowd that they're still heels. So you can like them, but you still have to boo them because they don't like you. They're still heels. Yeah. So that's what I think. Keep them as heels for some time while they've just won the tag team championship titles. Keep them as heels. Then, at some point, turn them babyface. Now, when you've got the next big heel team established, because at this point we've got baby faces all around. The Ascension, well, we know the Ascension now. I think they're beyond buried at this point because based on what happened on Monday Night Raw, we had the Dudley Boys returning just after the New Day defeated the Lucha Dragons in some tag team action. I think it was the first match of the evening. Then the Dudley Boys showed up. Everyone was excited to see them, Michael Cole especially. But the Dudley Boys, they showed up 3D to Xavier Woods through the table. Yeah, I mean, how many tables are going to be left while the Dudley Boys are around? But now with them in the picture, baby faces, I would have to believe at this point. But if the Dudley Boys were to turn heel, I think that's when you can have the New Day being baby faces, but because you've got this legendary tag team, and they can be the big heels to the New Day being baby faces, and they can help establish the New Day as the new big babyface tag team. Because again, with the Ascension, as I was saying, the Dudley Boys were advertised to be appearing on SmackDown, and I found out that they took on the Ascension as I guessed, because I was like, okay, none of the teams from that four-way at SummerSlam are going to be fed to the Dudley Boys. It'll probably be the Ascension, and it was the Ascension. And again, the Ascension, they will be in the first match of the Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic against, wait for it, guess, Baron Corbin and Rhino. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? Yeah. So the Ascension really at this point, maybe they do well at house shows. I would assume they do well enough at house shows for them to still be around, because right now at this point, really, they should be gone. I think they might as well find a new gimmick, because the crowd is turned against them. They were fed to legends some time back, and I think from there the crowd just lost faith in the Ascension. It's unfortunate because their gimmick, it may be a nod to the LOD, but it doesn't mean like they're the new LOD. No, come on. They're their own guys, and they've established their gimmick, and they're fresh, they're new, totally stand out from all the other tag teams. But the crowd isn't against them, so isn't with them on their side. It's unfortunate. So we can't really count the Ascension anymore as the next uh, heel team. Maybe, you never know, but it's unfortunate. So I think, yeah, with the Dudley Boys now, if they turn on the crowd and become heels, it will lead to the New Day becoming the next big baby face. And I think they could have great matches against the Dudley Boys. Maybe they should also get a third guy. Then at least we have a faction war. Dudley Boys versus the New Day. That should make for something huge right there. So, yeah, they returned. Then, what else happened at SummerSlam? We had Neville teaming up with Stephen Amell against Stardust and King Barrett. I think a lot of people expected this to be just a filler match, a flop, just something to have the celeb do a few spots and then that's it. But Stephen Amell, yeah, he was in there. He took some bumps, took some hits from Stardust, and Barrett, he held his own, and he actually was in there for a lengthy time for a celebrity. But he was in there, he did the job, and people enjoyed it. They weren't booing or anything. They were in there, they chanted for him. He took a dive off the top turnbuckle outside, taking out Stardust. And Barrett, it was a good match with a celeb, and I think he set the bar pretty high for any future celebs who would want to compete in a wrestling ring in the WWE. They would have to step up. So, Stephen Amell, props to you for actually being in there and showing how much of a fan you are of wrestling, because you were there, you're committed, and you actually did something in the ring, and the crowd was behind it. So it was a good match. But what happened on Raw, Stardust and Barrett were set to compete in tag team action, but we had Stardust turning on Barrett, and now Barrett is on his own again. What happens next? Because we had assumed that, okay, him teaming up with Stardust could lead to at least them being a formidable tag team. I guess that would have been another heel tag team against the New Day. After the Neville feud, they could move on to challenge the New Day for the tag team titles, or the Dudley Boys if they become the new tag team champions. Maybe would have had Stardust and Barrett compete in the Dusty Rhodes Classic, Tag Team Classic. This is assuming it's open to tag teams on the main roster as well. I hope it is, rather than just it being exclusive to NXT tag teams. I think open it up to every tag team on the main roster. I think, well, with the Ascension being in the opening match, I guess we could say it includes superstar tag teams on the main roster. But we have Stardust turning on Barrett, so Barrett is on his own again. What happens to Barrett now, really? I hope they've got something planned for him, for them to dissolve their team so early. But we do have Stardust versus Neville continuing, I guess, because Stephen Amell won't be a factor in this feud anymore, so he might as well just have Stardust versus Neville. But it could have been Stardust and Barrett against Neville. Two supervillains, in quotes, against the hero, Neville. That should have led to a compelling feud right there. Then after that, we had the Three Divas match, tag team match at SummerSlam. Now the crowd, I think they were switched off once Sasha Banks, Team Bad were eliminated, because they wanted Sasha. They really did. There was this point where I think Tamina tagged in Sasha, and the crowd was high for that. They were excited. And then it didn't last long, because Sasha would then tag in Naomi, and the crowd, they switched off immediately from cheering, and then, just switched off right there. So when they were eliminated, I think the crowd was completely out of that uh, team elimination match. And there was this point where Nikki hit Paige with the Alabama Slam outside, and from there, Paige was low. I mean, she looked like she was completely out of it for quite some time. I think she was knocked out. Yeah, she looked like she was knocked out because she didn't seem very responsive. I had to drag her around the ring, but of course, yeah, she got up again, and the match continued. But I think, yeah, the crowd, they wanted Sasha, and Sasha was gone. Of course, Becky would get the win for Team PCB in that match after an epic fail of a drop kick from Brie Bella from the top rope. I mean, seriously, it looked really ridiculous. Becky got the win there. Then on Monday Night Raw, there was this segment where Team PCB was with The Miz, an exchange of promos. I mean, honestly, they didn't sound like the NXT women that we all know and love. They just sounded like divas, like any other diva on the main roster. Their promos really reflected that. They didn't have that spark, that energy, that coolness from being on NXT. Now that they're on the main roster, they just sounded like any other diva on the main roster. And when Team Bella popped up, disaster already, because the crowd, they still want Sasha, and they turned on the subsequent six women tag team match that followed this segment. They started doing the wave. They had a "We Are Awesome" chant, and of course, the divas were not pleased about that. I think they took to Twitter to complain at the fans. But really, why are you complaining at the fans? Take your frustration out on creative, on the booking. This entire Divas revolution is already going downhill because you're just giving crowds the same thing you've been giving them for weeks now. After what they saw between Sasha Banks and Bayley on Saturday, and you're just going back to giving them some more tag team action between two factions. I mean, come on. At this point, one lady should have at least wisened up and realized that there's a Divas champion. Why don't I go for that? So far, the last lady to make Nikki Bella submit was Sasha Banks. So a lot of people could assume that she is currently the number one contender. And unfortunately, Sasha Banks was not there on Monday. The crowd wanted her, so they were totally switched off to that Team Bella versus Team PCB match. And rightly so. It was the same thing, and it just looks like WWE, they are not really bothered about changing some aspects in this Divas Revolution. And if they don't, the crowd is going to turn against them because they want Sasha Banks. They really do. And I guess the idea must have been for Charlotte to be pushed, but looking at what happened on Saturday, the crowd, they turned. They don't want Charlotte. They want Sasha Banks. And again, for Charlotte, I really hope they'll move away from just portraying her as Ric Flair's daughter, because really, is that all that she'll ever be? Will we ever get Charlotte separated from just being the Nature Boy's daughter? Really, there has to be more to it. I mean, we don't get reminded night after night who Randy Orton, his father is, his grandfather is. We know who Randy Orton is without being reminded that he's Cowboy Bob Orton's son. You know, he's got a famous grandfather before that. You know, we know who Randy Orton is, and I think that's I'm hoping that'll be the case for Charlotte as well as time goes on. Let her be her own woman. build her up to be Charlotte. Who is Charlotte? Not just Ric Flair's daughter, not because of the four horsemen, now that the four horsewomen and stuff like that. No, move away from that. I guess it's obviously deliberate because they want to give props to Ric Flair and all, but still, if you want Charlotte to be built up as her own character, then let her do that. Don't remind us over and over that she's Ric Flair's daughter, because it just feels like that's all she'll ever be, Ric Flair's daughter. So let's get more from her. We had Kevin Owens versus Cesaro at SummerSlam. I think this would have been a great match if Cesaro looked out of it. I think there was that spinning kick to the back of his head from Kevin Owens. I think that took him out because he seemed exhausted, slow, like he really wasn't there. If he had been at 100%, yeah, I think would have gotten more from this match. And of course, considering Kevin Owens had competed in a hellacious ladder match the previous night against Finn Balor for the NXT Championship, so of course you wouldn't expect Owens to be at full throttle 100%. But for what we got, it was an okay match, physical contest. But I think there should have been more to it if they had been at 100%. That's what I think. So I don't know where we'll go from here as far as Cesaro and Kevin. As far as Kevin Owens and Cesaro is concerned. Hoping to see more. We got Dolph Ziggler versus Rusev. We look at Lana and wow, consider the transformation that Lana has gone through during the past couple of months. From being Rusev's woman, this manager who's got like a chip on her shoulder because she's with Rusev undefeated for over a year. Then he lost to Cena. She was abused with Rusev not treating her right, and then she left him, and then she was now her own woman, standing on her own 2 feet without anyone to rely on. She seemed, much more powerful on her own than she was with Rusev, right? And now she got involved with Dolph Ziggler, and her dress code has changed. She's no longer wearing the suit. She's now in a jean skirt, jean jacket. Basically, she's now Ziggler's girl. Imagine. Rusev's woman to being her own boss, so to speak. Now she's Ziggler's girl now. And it's unfortunate because if these two break up, back to being Lana on her own again, and then what happens? Is she going to find someone else to be with? I'd hoped that Lana would continue on her own. I think she would have done more on her own than going up to be with Ziggler, because look at her now. She's not as she doesn't feel as powerful as she was on her own when she was with Rusev prior to him not treating her right. Because I think she would have been a cool manager. I really think so. Lady Heyman in quotes, because you'd have people wanting to be managed by her, both divas and superstars. You'd have, I'm a Lana guy, I'm a Lana girl, because consider that she was Rusev's manager, she's Dolph Ziggler's girlfriend / manager, so to speak. You could say that. Both of these guys, they've got an impressive track record. So if you could take that into building her as a manager, you would have her being manager to some great divas and great superstars, and build her promos as well. I think the crowd love her. So if you could have built her to be a great manager like Heyman and all that, I think she would have been awesome. Rather than building her up to be an in-ring competitor, or just looking forward to a catfight between her and Summer Rae. Not a wrestling match, ladies and gentlemen. Those are your divas. Your female wrestlers are there, so I think it's going to be a letdown. I really do. Entertainment, sure, we get to see these two ladies go at it, but at what expense, honestly? Then I did touch on John Cena. He lost the United States Championship to Seth Rollins at SummerSlam. Great match, I would say. I really thought it wouldn't level up to the matches we were having between Cena and Kevin Owens. But Seth Rollins, he brought everything into this match. He had the frog splash. He hit Cena with the AA. He had this impressive superplex, and turned it into, I think it was a Michinoku driver. I mean, that was awesome. It really was. Cena kicked out, of course, but back and forth action. This was where Rollins was fighting like a champion, not a coward or a joke that we've been getting for months on end. He was in this match. He gave Cena a challenge. And that's all that we really want out of Seth Rollins. Jon Stewart comes in with the chair. Would he hit Seth Rollins? Would he hit Cena? He hits Cena. Seth Rollins pedigree onto the chair. He gets the United States Championship. On Raw, Jon Stewart would come out to explain exactly why he did what he did on Sunday. It was to protect the legacy of Ric Flair. He didn't want John Cena tying with Ric Flair. Ric Flair would pop out, letting people know that he genuinely respects John Cena, and he believes that his record would have been broken by someone else sooner or later. So he was cool with Cena breaking or tying the record. He was cheering for Cena. Cena comes out telling Jon Stewart that he's ruined everything. The titles are in the hands of the authority now. The crowd, of course, they were still in New York. They were against John Cena. John Cena, he AAs Jon Stewart. And he was planning to disrupt the unveiling of Seth Rollins' statue later on in the evening, but he was escorted out. So I don't know how long John Cena will be out off TV. I wonder. So, and then in the end, we had Seth Rollins with his big promo when the statue was unveiled. Turned out to be Sting. He attacked Seth Rollins. He's got his hands on the WWE title, making it clear that that's what he's going for now. And I guess it sets up for Seth Rollins versus Sting for the WWE Championship at Night of Champions. Now, with Seth Rollins being United States Champion, does it mean double duty? Will he defend the United States Championship early on in the night against John Cena, and then later on, main event, defends the WWE Championship against Sting? I think done right, it's worth a shot. I'd like to see it. We see Seth Rollins actually proving his worth as, quote unquote, the man now. Double champion. Can he step up? Night of Champions, all the titles are on the line. Will he defend the United States Championship and the WWE Championship in the same night? I'd like to see it. I certainly hope so. We at least get John Cena versus Seth Rollins, the rematch there and then. Then we can at least anticipate Seth Rollins versus Sting in the main event. Looking forward to it. Then we had the 8-man tag team match. Oh no. We had the rematch for the family versus family match. Dean Ambrose, Roman Reigns versus the Wyatt family. Based on what happened at SummerSlam, there was a point where Roman Reigns, I think he was super kicked by Luke Harper over the announce table, and he was out for some time. The crowd started chanting, Roman sleeping. I mean, wow, honestly. Maybe, he was selling that move, but I guess the crowd, they turned against that, and they were chanting Roman sleeping. and they were against Roman Reigns. Honestly, New York is not a fan of Roman Reigns at all. They had a rematch on Monday Night Raw, physical, until the newest member of the Wyatt family showed up. Braun Strowman. Yeah, it should be Strowman. Massive guy, really. Monster of a man, manhandling Roman Reigns and Dean Ambrose single-handedly. And at this point, I wonder, will there still be room for Eric Rowan? I hope there still is, because there you have a faction now. 4 guys, Wyatt family. Who will Dean Ambrose and Roman Reigns have on their side against the Wyatt family? You'd have to wonder, because that is a full-out war. There are 4 guys. Hopefully, Dean and Roman get 2 other guys. 4 versus 4. There is a war for you, family versus family. You can imagine if it can lead up to a big match at TLC, or maybe Survivor Series, team elimination battle. Maybe. Well, I don't think Eric will be back in shape by then, but let's hope so. They have a big match at Survivor Series. I think fans will be looking forward to that. Just like what they had, the Shield versus the Wyatt family. That was awesome. Let's have something on that level now with the Wyatt family, Dean Ambrose, Roman Reigns. Have them recruit 2 guys, 4 versus 4 battle. The main event for Raw was 8-man tag team action. We had Randy Orton with Cesaro. We had Dolph Ziggler and Ryback against Big Show, Sheamus, Rusev, and Kevin Owens. Now, Big Show, honestly, I think for his time in the ring, he was just against the crowd. The crowd were against Big Show, and he cost his team the match. KO punch to Sheamus, which was meant for Randy Orton. Randy Orton RKO on Sheamus. Then they turned, his team, Big Show's team, turned on Big Show. Kevin Owens and Rusev team up against Big Show. They left Sheamus. That's another interesting team there, Rusev and Owens. Hope there'll be something there. Another future feud, Owens versus Ryback. They did have some action in the ring, hoping it turns to something. Now the winning team, heels, baby faces, remember, they turn on Big Show. That was a heelish move. I didn't really like that at all. I wonder why. But I guess it was just to give the crowd an RKO. But overall, I would say SummerSlam, not as hype as NXT Brooklyn, but Raw more or less made up for it in some way, with the return of Sting, with the Dudley Boys as well. So I guess Raw kinda made up for SummerSlam, kinda, right? So I hope you guys enjoyed this review. Next episode being Universe Mode Monday Night Raw. If you have your thoughts on SummerSlam, NXT Raw, let me know. Follow me up on Twitter at AllenCDOS, ALLENCEEDOS. So thank you guys. We will see you in the next episode, Universe Mode Monday Night Raw.